You ready to watch some art? Yeah. I'm laughing. Yeah.
Welcome to Rough Cuts.
Dogs, they're coming. They're coming your way. They'll be here soon. Something strange.
I didn't think much about it until I saw him drag the body out of the coffin.
Something evil. Bury your own. Something terrifying is happening in Ludlow, Maine. Again. Pet Sematary 2.
No brain, no pain.
Starts Friday, August 28th at theaters everywhere.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our podcast about good boys and bad movies. This is Rough Cuts. I'm Ilion, and this is my wonderful co-host, the Boix.
Hello. We watched Pet Sematary 2, the second Pet Sematary.
And I was going to ask if I needed to watch the first one for context. Well, I did ask that.
Correct. The answer is no.
No.
For two reasons, by the way. One, Pet Sematary is a Stephen King story.
Mm-hmm.
Pet Sematary 2 was not written or looked over at all by Stephen King. It's just somebody writing a story in the way they thought Stephen King would.
Yes, they're just writing a sequel to a Stephen King movie in a way that it's like Stephen King, they think. They're not right,
Yeah.
but they're not wrong.
The other thing is, the first movie is all brooding and moody. This is not. This is not in that aspect. Like, it's not slow and brooding. This is full ham at times.
Sure. This movie is weird because when you say like it's not moody and brooding, but it also has like everything is muddied. Like all of their visuals in this movie is they chose a color palette that is brown, blue, maybe,
Sometimes
and brown.
gray.
Sometimes gray. You get a little bit of blue gray. Yeah. It is a wild look for this movie. Like, it's so dark and muddied and everything. You can barely see stuff most of the time. There's a moment in this movie where, like you said, the Clancy Brown, the bad cop, I fucking love Clancy Brown in this, drives up to his stepson menacingly, and you turn and look at me and go, what time is this in the movie? What time of day is it?
What time of day is it? Can you tell me?
I mean, it's day for night is what it is. But like, really bad day for night.
I don't know if I've ever seen a movie this dark and lighting.
But also, I don't know if the movie was trying to say that it was night, which is...
No.
Like, it feels like day for night, except that it's not supposed to be night. So, it's just every time of day. Like, it's this muddy in-between color that you have no idea what time anything's supposed to be, but everything is always really gross and shadowed. Like, it feels like the movie version of, like, the Gears of War style color palette that became common in video games.
They went, like, super ham on it in editing, and it's very weird. It's a weird decision. Actually, let's talk about filmmaking a bit for this movie.
Sure.
Because I like a lot of it, actually, in some aspects. The director is Mary Lambert, who has directed movies you've heard of, like... and... yeah.
Pet Sematary 1?
Was it just documentaries, or did she also do that one? Okay.
No, she did Pet Sematary 1. She did the first one.
But the point is, her filmmaking is interesting. Like, I felt like this movie was trying to be shot as a Universal monster movie meets early 90s. Like, there's scenes that are very clearly reminiscent of old 30s sets. Like, the cemetery itself looks like an old 30s set.
It's got the Star Trek vibe of very
Yeah.
obviously like plastic weird rocks, right? Because it's supposed to be this like bog, and so they have all of the like alien planet plastic
Mhm,
rocks
mhm.
that's like really cheesy Star Trek sets have, or like 60s Doctor Who. Like it's that feel, right? Like it feels like an homage and a love letter in some ways to old like B movie, like gross out
100%,
horror
yeah.
movies and stuff, that like super low budget stuff. Like it's got a very Sam Raimi vibe to it, honestly.
Yeah, I was getting really big Evil Dead 2 vibes.
Yes. Yes,
100%.
very
Yeah.
much so. But then the part about it that's weird to me is that sometimes with like the way that the visuals are so muddied and brooding and stuff, is it feels like that you're like, okay, was this done on this budget and done like that because it's a joke homage to those bad kind of movies, like those movies that look really cheesy and bad? Or did they just not know? And I'm not
Yeah,
100% certain.
I can't tell. Like
Yeah,
like
like
like, clearly, there's intent, and there's a nod and wink at the camera
in
for a lot
some
of
of it,
this,
maybe. I think
but some
so.
of it
I
I think
think
is just
so.
incompetent editing, so I'm like,
Yeah, like 'cause
ah."
the muddied visuals really do look bad. Like it just doesn't.
Mhm.
It's hard to see people's faces a lot of the time because they're kind of half in shadow. But like in scenes where it's not meant to be menacing, right? Where it's not.
Yeah.
It's
Where they're
just
just
like two
talking.
kids talking.
Yeah.
Like the kids are like, "You ever think about running away? Like my dad's kind of bad," and they're just talking, but it's like in this weird shadowed lighting, and it just doesn't look right. It just looks unclear and muddied and gross and
Mhm.
kind of grimy for no real reason.
Yeah, it's weird. The lighting is probably the worst part of the film, uh,
Yes.
in
Yeah.
general. But like I got Evil Dead 2 vibes, I got Howling vibes.
Yeah.
Very much
Yeah.
like Howling 2 in some situations, especially the
Oh
dream
god,
sequences.
yes. Yeah. There's a lot of animal imagery
Yeah,
and
like
sexual animal
the
imagery.
it's like if you took the old Universal Wolfman movie and then mixed it with a bunch of, 80s late 80s gore.
Yeah, and also made it just a little bit horny for the wolf.
A little bit horny and very sarcastic. God, the
Yeah.
sarcasm is just overflowing in this film. There's so
It
much.
sure. Yeah, like I I'm so confused by it though because it feels like some of it isn't intentional. Like I don't know how much of this movie is. I
Right.
was saying that downstairs. Like I was thinking about this movie and I thought, is this movie the work of a unappreciated, like better Sam Raimi, almost like genius, like that
Mhm.
kind of thing, or is this just a total stumblefuck accident from an absolute incompetent? And I'm not sure that I can tell the difference.
I I'm leaning towards genius, and I'll tell you why. It's the
Sure.
soundtrack choice. Because every single
See, I
song
don't know.
is
I
no,
don't
but every
know.
single song is used sarcastically at a laser pinpointed moment to be like, this is fucking hilarious if I play this song right
Maybe.
now with these lyrics that are saying exactly what's happening on screen.
Counterpoint, it is the most like tropey obvious songs for every moment. Like
Yeah,
it's all this weird like B-level butt rock from people you've never heard. Like it always feels like it's
yeah.
about to be a Guns N' Roses song, is like the way you described it.
Or like
And
Ramones or something. Actually, Ramones is in the movie. It's the credits song,
yes. Yeah, it is.
oddly
Yeah, yeah,
enough.
yeah, yeah. But
But
like
it's like alt rock, butt rock.
it's like Nine Inch Nails sometimes. Like it's got a little bit
Yeah.
of that vibe. Like it's very like, and it just feels like that's just the edgy '90s unaware like, because like they have
They
Edward Furlong turn into this moody
they do
weird
have the kid
goth,
from Terminator 2 turn into a goth kid. That's
and
true.
like I'm not sure. It could absolutely like that's kind of the genius of this film and why it works so well is because it you could absolutely make very valid arguments for this is all intentional and done in like such a stupid slapstick over the top perfect way because they understand, or it could be that they don't understand how funny that is, and these are intentional choices, and you can make arguments for both, and I think they both work. And so I have no idea which way it is.
I mean, so if it's not intentional,
yes,
then the answer is that this is a time capsule movie.
Yes.
And this is just the early 90s, and they don't know what the hell they're... Like, the Super Mario Brothers movie also has a really fucking weird soundtrack, and that's also right around the same time of just... Was this intentional? Did they not know how music was working at this time?
Like yeah, well, and it also, again, like it feels like a bit of the Prince of Persia 2. I always use this as the example, The Warrior Within, because like it's just like that brooding, edgy rock, like where it's like, stand alone, like, and it's kind of got, it's not quite that, because
I wanna die like Jesus.
Yeah, it has that. Yes. I want to die like Jay, and it like, and for a scene that, but that's a car chase scene. It's just a car chase. Like, it's like doing this like weird, edgy music, and like that's either an inspired, hilarious choice, or somebody that's just like stuck in like the early 90s edginess.
He's just having a really good time. Look at him. This song! What is happening?
Drew, what is he doing?
This whole thing is an experience.
I don't know. I'm kind of leaning genius also, but I do think there's a very valid argument the other way.
So there's a scene where the sheriff is killing all of his pet rabbits. And the song that's playing is "You're on My Shit List."
What the fuck is happening?
I don't know.
He's... What?
Oh, he's killing all the rabbits.
Yeah, why? Oh, okay.
It's because it's gross. So they have to put that on screen.
It is.
Yeah. That has to be intentional.
It doesn't have to be. That's the best part. Is that it doesn't have to
randomly pick the shitless song while he's skinning a bunch of rabbits and staring
because they
his
think
kid
it makes
in the
him look
face?
scary. Because they think it makes him look scary and badass, and that's the song that you'd pick if you thought it made him look scary and badass, and you were a moron. That's exactly what you would pick. That's exactly what you would pick.
Funny. It's really funny though.
It is. It's hilarious. It's got like the... This feels like a tacked out shirt from the 90s. Like this is that energy. This is like barbed wire tattoos and chugging beer with your backwards hat and like your flame shirt. That's what this movie is. But also, like, I don't know if it's doing that ironically or seriously. And either way, it's hilarious.
I would like to think that it was on purpose because it makes me feel better.
I like to just imagine that it could be either, and it's this beautiful in between time capsule movie.
If it was just random, man, they lucked out. It's so good.
It's so good. It's really good. It sucks that there's a bunch of things that I don't like about it. Like those visuals really do suck. Like it's rough a couple times, and there's some choices like you said. We had a scene where the two kids go up and they bury the dog early on in the movie because, spoiler alert, Pet Sematary. It's about dogs and animals coming back from the dead, and then it escalates.
The first Pet Sematary is the Creed family. Their cat dies. They bury their cat. The cat comes back. I think somebody in the family dies. They bury the family member. They come back. And then it's the same fucking movie we just watched.
Yes.
But they also mentioned the Creed family in this movie.
Creed's cat. And so was his wife.
It's a full retreading of it. It's one of those movies where, like you said, it's a sequel where the sequel is essentially a remake. Like, it's just... the same plot happens to a different family. It's like Exorcist, Exorcist 2, Exorcist 3, where it's just like, oh, a new person is possessed.
But now
It's
it's
a different
Pazuzu.
possession. But now it's
Yeah.
even worse. Like it's always that. It's that kind of sequel. But so they bury the dog anyways, and then they sit down and they start having this talk about like, man, like death, man, like what's it about? What's life?
Yeah.
And while they're having this conversation,
They're chewing gum the
they
whole
both
time.
actors have gum, and it like, yeah, a good thing they've got like these really nice mics right up against them so you can
You can hear them chewing
no,
the
it's
whole
like
time.
sometimes that's just kind of
Like,
happens to people.
Never had anyone die before. But I guess you get over it.
do we want the kid to have gum during this scene? Let's have both kids have gum.
No.
Should we make sure that we have a lapel mic so we get all the chewing?
Oh, yeah. Very important, yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
Look. Maybe we should get out of here, huh?
That has to be intentional because it's so funny.
But it's kind of
It's
bad.
completely
That part was a little bit
inappropriate.
bad because it's just
It's
dumb.
completely inappropriate for the scene, and it's so funny.
There's
Like, here's the
a
other
lot
thing.
of that, yeah.
Like, you were talking about Sam Raimi. They do a ton of Evil Dead one-liners, especially with Gus.
Yes.
Like super evil Ash in Army of Darkness.
See, here's my argument about that whole thing. So this is this is Clancy Brown's character that we're talking about.
Yeah,
Gus.
yeah.
Gus is the cop.
Do you think he ad-libbed those? Like,
well, yes, not necessarily ad-libbed, but like I think maybe ad-libbed some of them, but I also feel like you could make the argument that no one knew what was going on in this film and understood that it was a joke, except for Clancy Brown, because I can believe that of Clancy Brown. That Clancy Brown like saw this and was like,
he read this like, oh, this is a pile of shit.
This is pile of shit. This is dumb. I'm just gonna play it up. I'm just gonna play it up real hard and make it fun as hell. And oh my god, Clancy Brown carries this fucking movie. Clancy Brown is so good. He's like you said,
everything
100%
he's in, he
Ash.
carries it. Like he's Ash. He's also a huge piece of shit, though. That's
I mean,
important to
Ash is a
note.
huge piece of shit, though. But he's worse than Ash. Yeah,
He's
Ash is a
way
heroic
worse,
piece of shit. Yes.
Yeah, this is the villain for sure.
Oh yeah, he's very
no,
obviously.
100%. Then
He's a monster.
It's weird though, because like I expected his character to be the big bad evil like villain, the big one, the whole thing, and he's just not. And why?
The big bad evil villain at one point is Moody Edward Furlong.
Yeah, it keeps changing.
Which
it's
is
like because Gus dies as he's right.
We need to get into the plot because people are like, "What the fuck are they talking about? Like, why is Edward Furlong the villain?"
Okay, so Pet Sematary 2 opening up at the again classic Universal monster movie in Dracula's castle.
Yes,
and they're on the set of a film with Jeff's mom, which is
Jeff
the
being Edward
kid.
Furlong, this kid,
Edward Furlong's mom, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm in this movie set, and it's great because I'm so alive right now and not dead.
I love being alive.
I love being alive.
I love being alive, and I love my son, who's right here to watch me right now, who I love very much, and he loves me being alive too."
Yeah, and I will never die.
Weird that we're pouring water over this open power socket.
And she's saying that there's a guy holding a hose over a fucking wire. Like, yeah, keep going.
She's like standing in the puddle as she's monologuing this.
Yeah, it's so. Oh my god,
who knows what could happen? Anything.
Oh my god, and then they redo the scene that she flubbed. And on the second time, the water causes the wires to spark up and she gets electrocuted. But she doesn't skeletonize. That was the one thing I think they should have added to this scene. She should have skeletonized while she was getting electrocuted, like Home
Okay.
Alone 2.
See, that's an argument in favor of they didn't know what they were doing, because skeletonizing that, if they had skeletonized her, then I'd agree with you. This movie just knew.
They skeletonized what's her face in the Super Mario Brothers movie. Like they should have
They
done
sure
it.
did.
They
Yeah.
should have done
But
it.
she gets electrocuted real gorily on this, like,
Hmm.
kind of fence around Dracula's coffin, because they have a big fence around it.
I
Like,
guess.
it's weird.
Yeah, she
That's just
needed
an
to touch the
overdone
fence
gothic set.
for the scene, I guess. I don't know.
Whatever.
It was convenient.
Yes.
So she gets electrocuted, and literally 1 second later, they're at the funeral.
Yeah.
1
This
second.
movie goes. This movie does not stop for anything.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, you're at the funeral now. Great. Well, now that she's dead, Gus walks up to Jeff's dad.
Yeah, there's a cop there, Gus, and he's
Yeah,
like
Gus is the
shoving
cop.
back all of these reporters who are trying to get in.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, he
like,
starts
get away,
talking
get away,
to...
stop bothering him. All right, I'm gonna bother him.
Yes,
What?
correct. I need to do that. Listen, I'm a cop. I'm the only one who gets to be a piece of shit around here.
Yeah. So then he starts bothering him. He's like, oh, you're gonna be moving into the summer home? Yeah. Oh, that's the plot, huh? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, dead wife, huh?
Yeah.
Just kind of like, just making this weird small talk with him. Jeff's dad is shown for a second receiving a call when she dies also, and he's at like a vet appointment. So they're showing he's a veterinarian. And so then Jeff and Dad move to small town Maine. Did you know that Stephen King's from Maine? Hey, did you know that? It's
right.
not. It's Stephen King. Anyway,
and I think it's Ludlow, Maine, which is also the location
Ludlow,
of the first
Maine. I'm sure
cemetery,
it's the first
so,
one. Yeah, that's why. But
yeah.
Everything's got to be set in Maine if it's Stephen King. But
yeah, and all the Stephen King fans are like, yes,
Ludlow,
standing outside the window
Ludlow.
with their sicko shirt. Yeah.
But he decides to go into the same small town and take over the same exact veterinary shop that the last vet left years ago because of what happened in the first movie, kind of thing.
Yeah.
All of that classic, like, very tropey setup. And it's this old... They turned the veterinary clinic into a haunted house. It's like
a
full
haunted
of
house.
cobwebs and all this shit. Like, you were laughing so hard about it. Like, it's all cobwebby and stuff.
It's like a Disney ride, like a dark ride.
It looks like one of those like fair rides where somebody in a costume is going to grab your arms as you slowly go past in a cart. It's one of those things. So Edward Furlong finds a bunch of abandoned cats in the back, and they get to adopt a kitten. And this movie, the whole time that all of this is happening, I do want to mention that it is like, it has the same vibes as a Final Destination movie, where every 30 seconds, somebody is doing something incredibly unsafe. Just like death flagging really, really hard. Like, the dad will just be like talking to him, and he's like, yeah, son, we gotta set up the veterinary shop. Anyways, I'm gonna clean the gutters with this ladder. And he like climbs a ladder, and it's like really rickety, and it like kind of zooms in on like a rung that's maybe half sawn through and might fall. But he like goes past it, and you're like, oh, is now when he dies? And then he like reaches for the gutter, and you see like a sparking like electrical line that's fallen right next to it.
Gutter? Yeah,
and he's like, he's moving his hand up blindly, trying to grab something. And then the kid calls him, so he moves his hand down so he doesn't touch it. It's like that shit, just constantly, absolutely all over the place. Like, Gus goes and grabs his wife from behind to like fool around with her, but it's when she's like over a stove, and it like zooms in on the like gas flame underneath, like she's like burning oil. Oh no, maybe she'll die right now. Like, it's just like all this shit like that over and over. It's really funny. Honestly, it's really good.
I love it. Like, man, there's so many. I feel like there are intentional winks because there's so many of these. There's so many. But it could just be unintentional still. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it could very, like, that's the thing, is it very well could be that they're like, haha, maybe now, and like they don't realize how goofy that is.
The house that they move into, by the way, I have questions about the space of this house and the design.
Sure.
Because they show a scene where they're moving in and unloading boxes, and their housekeeper shows up, who apparently will live with them like a stepmom, but is a housekeeper and is not their stepmom. But the dad's
Absolutely not
interested
the
in her,
stepmom.
but not enough to ask her out.
Or do anything
Or do
else during the movie
anything.
ever
She
at
just
all.
hangs out on the couch. That's her
She just
job.
her job is that she lays on the couch and gets paid by these people, these rich
Yep.
assholes that are living now in this small town for some reason.
Which,
But
to be fair, like, I mean, take advantage of that, right? It's free money.
yeah, when you say that he's interested in her, she shows up 5 minutes after they move in, like, and they're unpacking boxes still. And she just is like, "Oh, hi, I'm your new live-in housekeeper." And the dad just kind of does like the like eyes pop out of his head, and
God.
he's
Yeah,
like,
I'm fucked.
tongue rolls out down onto the floor. And then he never ever talks to her or looks at her or does anything with her ever again for the rest of the movie. That is
Right, but
literally it.
so in the scene where she shows up, though, she's at the front door. So they have the front door open, and there's a screen door. That fucking door is like 3 people wide.
It
It's
sure
so big.
is.
It looks like they're dolls in a dollhouse or something. It makes no sense.
You look different than you sounded on the
Oh
phone.
my
Please
god.
Ugh.
I'm real excited.
Great. Hey, my wife's dead. Like, leaves in her life.
Something.
Oh, what are you doing later today?
Yeah, that's kind of screwed up. Something's bothering me about this door. It's too wide.
It's huge.
You know,
It's huge.
Are they really
I
small,
adore
or is the
Miss
door really
Ella.
big?
Yes. It's a really weird door. It would make sense in a way if it was this weird mansion. And like when they're talking about the mom, like she's in this bad B movie. So I thought like, oh, well, maybe she's just like not well received because like they're moving to this really tiny town and like
Yeah.
taking over this old decrepit veterinary place, and they're living in like this. The house has a huge front door, but it's kind of just run down and old. Other than that, like it's nothing fancy at all.
Right. It just
And
it's
so
supposed to be just a normal house, but like it has
yeah,
a barn door. What
it
the?
has a it's a really weird door. But also, and they've got like a live-in housekeeper, which you're like, okay,
Yeah.
these are rich assholes, and you're like, okay, are they rich because the mom is a super famous actress,
What?
or is she a bad B movie actress and they don't have a lot of money? Because it seems to want it both ways, maybe. Because
I
the
don't even
lady
think she
shows
has
up
a
also.
room, though. I don't even think she has a room. She just lives in the living room.
Yeah, I don't know. But the live-in
Yeah.
housekeeper, when she shows up, even like, because I was like, okay, well, maybe they're not super rich, and that's why they're going to live in this weird shack in this small town in the middle of nowhere. But it gets immediately undercut because the live-in housekeeper shows up, and you're like, okay, that's a rich person thing. And then as they're packing things away, she sees a dress fall out. She goes, "Oh my god, isn't that the dress that she wore to like the 1989 Academy Awards where she got Best Actress?" And you're like, wait, what?
Because
Like
she's a super fan.
she's a
Yeah.
super mom. Like, so yeah, the housekeeper's just weird fan, which they also never go anywhere with, really.
No.
Because they kind of set it up like she's supposed to be the stepmom, but they don't do enough with that plot line. That's just kind of thrown to the side.
It's super weird that this character exists, but they needed something to happen later in the film, so they're like, okay.
They wanted,
Yeah.
they really wanted to have her be like the replacement mom so that she could get murdered by resurrected mom. Spoiler
Mhm.
alert. As if you couldn't have
Spoiler.
already guessed that. Like this movie is the most obvious things possible happening. And that's part of, again, the argument for, do they know what they're doing or is it just stupid? Clancy Brown came in after that and they were like, no, we got to make this more about Clancy Brown.
Yeah.
Clancy Brown steals the show. So anyways, she's there and she's kind of a weird super fan. So she's set up as like replacement mom for this kid. Kid gets bullied at school by these weirdos because he's rich and white and has a super famous mom. So of course you've got to bully
Yeah,
that
no,
kid. He's
bullies.
obviously a loser.
Obviously the most oppressed person at the school.
Mhm.
Also, he brought a kitten to class, and all the bullies are like, hey, what do you got there? A cat? Cool, can I pet it? Cool. And then they pet the cat, which is bullying.
And then they run. Well, then they do steal
Well, then
the
they
cat and
steal
run
the
away
cat,
with
but
it.
like before that, it was just, hey, can I pet your cat?
Yeah,
Okay.
I love how normally you would get picked on in school for bringing a really cool pet and having a super super famous mom and being rich.
Yeah, yeah.
All of the regular reasons why you got bullied in school.
Okay, so when the bullies steal the kitten, though,
Hmm.
they ride off towards the woods,
Yes.
and the whole time the Tony Hawk like Pro Skater
Oh
soundtrack
my
is playing from
god.
Tony Hawk 2.
Yes. Yeah. They just got Superman
They got
playing in the
Superman playing
background
the
of
whole
this.
time as they're riding their bikes, and it
It
fucking whips.
really is. The music choices in this are next level for sure.
Yeah.
Like this?
Oh no! Oh Jesus!
Of course, the person that you bully is always going to be the super rich, like high school, like a person with like a mom that was a movie star, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. The kids that normally get bullied.
You know, the people that are really oppressed in this nation are the rich kids.
You'd think so.
Yeah.
And you'd be right.
Only slightly less oppressed than gamers. Now.
I mean, you say slightly, but I don't know. I think it might be more. Based on this, look at how much they're bullying this kid.
The bullies stop. Jeff confronts them. He's like, hey, where's my cat? Give it back. I left it in the pet cemetery. No, really, where's my cat? I just fucking told. It's in the pet cemetery. Go get it. I left it over there, asshole. What the
Well,
hell,
he does
man?
lie to him because he says that
Yeah.
he killed the cat and then
Oh,
left it in
yeah.
the pet
Okay, fair.
cemetery.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did. So then this is their setup to like relate the story of like, hey, when you bury animals in the pet cemetery, they come back to life. Dun, dun, dun. Maybe your cat's gonna come back and kill you.
Whoa.
Okay.
Anyways.
So
Yeah.
yeah, he goes in and gets his cat and leaves.
Yeah, just to introduce the cemetery, I guess, and
Yep.
the
Yeah, and the
legend
bullies.
behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So they ride their bikes back to Drew's house, which is the kid that is living
His
with
side.
Gus, who is his stepfather.
Yes. Yeah. Drew's
Okay.
kind of, if this movie switches protagonists a lot, it felt
Yeah.
like Jeff was going to be the protagonist. Edward Furlong would just,
At the beginning,
the,
yeah.
the kid was going to be the main character because it's all about him being bullied and like
And
him
his
with
mom
this cat
dying,
and
and
his mom
yeah.
dying. And so there's all this setup early on. And then it kind of switches now to Drew. Drew is his friend, but also a friend of the bullies.
Yeah,
Which is
he's friend to everyone and
he's a
bullied by all.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially Clancy Brown, as it turns out, because he goes back home and
He was
Clancy Brown is
abusive and
in a
shitty. Yeah.
horrible. He's a cop.
Yeah, he's a cop.
It was redundant. You didn't need to say anything else.
He also has like 20 bunnies.
This part was wild to me because they also have a setup where Drew goes and sees them at the vet when they're first opening things with the cop dad. And it's to help with his dog, Zowie. And it's like, oh, yeah, he was trying to get at the bunnies. And the bunnies scratched his face up. So is he okay? And he's like, oh, he needs like these corneal tears, etc., etc. And the kid's got the cat there. Jeff has the kitten. And the bastard cop is sitting there and he's like, oh, you got a cat there? Yeah, cats are for wimps. Like he's kind of doing this tough guy thing. And it's like,
It's even weirder than that. Like, it's not even about cats are for wimps. It's that he thought cats were girls and dogs were boys.
When I was younger, I thought cats were the girls and dogs were boys.
Well, that's what he says, yeah. But
I don't know what that means, though.
He's like, when I was a kid, I thought that all cats were girls and all dogs were boys. Well, because he's a shitty, like, hyper masculine guy. Like, yeah, he's like, oh boy, like dogs are hardcore for men and cats are
Oh,
for wimps. Like it's
I
that
thought
kind of feeling to
I
it.
thought he thought they were the same species, and I was very confused by what the
No, no,
fuck
I
he
think
was saying.
no, I think that that's what it was. That it's like
Okay.
that kind of thing, and he thought that that meant that all dogs were boys because they're badasses, and all cats are
Mhm,
girls.
mhm, mhm.
And so it's like that kind of hyper masculinity thing, and then it's like, oh yeah, so like that's why you've got a dog, and he's like, no, I hate dogs. Bunny rabbits are for real, man. And it's like, wait, what? Like, because that's
Yeah,
where they go with it.
yeah, yeah.
Because when he's at the house taking care of his rabbits, he's yelling and angry at this stepson, and he's an abusive piece of shit to him because he's like, I told you to keep a leash on that stupid dog. Dogs suck. Dogs are the worst. And he's just like mad at the dog. And I'm like, oh, and it's like, yeah, man, rabbits are for real, man. If you want to, when you want a real pet, talk to me, kid. Like, I'll give you a
Like
rabbit.
$10. I have a
And it's
sign
just,
outside.
hey, rabbits are
Yeah.
great pets. Ain't nothing wrong with a rabbit, but it's just such a, for like a weird hyper masculinity setup guy, they just go in this strange direction out of nowhere with it, and it's fucking wild.
But that night, Zowie tries to get at the rabbits again.
Mm-hmm.
So then Gus gets out of bed, throws on his pants, grabs his gun, and just shoots the dog,
Yeah.
which sucks a lot.
Yeah, I thought we
Yep.
were gonna get an electrocution scene too, because they
I
set it
thought
up
too,
where
yeah.
he like electrifies the rabbit fence with like 220 line from the
No,
house.
I think the only reason that the electricity exists is because that's how Zowie got the mark on his face.
I
Where
guess.
he originally took him to the vet and he said that it was a rabbit that hit him. It was the fence.
I
That's the
guess
only thing I can think
probably.
of.
I don't know. Yeah, it
Other
was
than that,
weird.
I
They
don't know
set it
why
up
they
like they
did
were gonna
any of that.
electrocute him. I think it
Yeah,
was just they like the red herrings of like how will they
yeah.
die? Maybe this way? Because there's a lot of ones they set up and like
It's
just
really
don't go
cheeky.
anywhere.
Really
Yeah, they're just
cheeky. Yeah.
very cheesy too.
But so he shoots the dog. Drew goes into the forest and sits with him as the dog passes away, and a song is playing, saying, "Oh, I hate to see you go. Can't wait for you to see you another day. You're leaving me."
I feel you fading away.
It's like,
Yeah, yep. That's the song. I remember that one. I think it's a Bruce Springsteen.
it's so good. It's like, oh no, that dog's gonna go away and join a rock band.
It's so fucking weird. And then
Oh man.
he calls up the other kid who he's like Jeff, and they're like, okay, well, I need to bury Zowie, like, but I'm gonna bury Zowie in the pet cemetery where it's gonna come back to life. I want my dog back. So they
Yeah.
go to the pet cemetery, and there's all of this garbage strewn around. Like it looks like they were near a dump. And what they
Hmm.
did is they said, okay, we're in the woods. Try and find as much garbage as you can, tie as many of it into cross-like shapes if you can, and other than that, just throw it places. Because
Who
there's
cares?
hubcaps and doll heads and bird cages and like old tires, and some of them are like wood crosses and some of them are gravestones, and it's just this incredible hodgepodge of garbage. It looks like an art installation. It's incredible.
It's
But
very
they,
Ed Wood. Yeah.
yes, and they set up this whole thing, and they walk into that place, and they're like, all right, he's like, so where are you going to bury it in this really creepy, obvious graveyard set? He goes, well, not in the graveyard, duh. We put the set here for nothing. And they just climb out of the
And they
graveyard
leave.
and they leave. There's this sign that says keep out
Yeah.
at the back of the graveyard that just has some logs on it, and they just climb over the logs, and they're like, no, we gotta bury it in the bog behind the graveyard.
And then they
Which is
just
not the pet
wander.
cemetery then, right? Like
Yeah.
what?
Oh, man, they like wander into like the salt flats and then
Yes,
just
there's just,
bury it.
like you said, it's all the plastic rock,
Yeah.
like cheesy set now, like where it looks like fucking 60s Star Trek or something, an alien planet.
It's
And
great.
yeah, they have like a weird altar there and stuff. So they bury the dog on the altar and then leave.
They're like, hey, what's this altar with skeletons and a bunch of bones everywhere? Oh, just put the dog on it. It's cool.
That's the perfect spot. There
All
you
right, let's
go.
leave. We're done now.
I mean, that is their
Oh,
goal.
okay.
Their goal is to resurrect the dog, so I guess it
Yeah,
works.
that night, the mom of Drew, so Drew's mom, wakes up because she hears scratching outside, and there's Zowie. So they wake up Drew. They're like, "Hey, buddy, what the fuck? You said you were out burying your dog. Then what's this?" And they show Zowie, who has red glowing eyes and a huge fucking wound that's not healed and not bleeding. Just
Like it's like
super dead
oozing
dog.
weird, like black
Yeah.
pus,
You're
and
like, "Look, the
yeah, this
dog's back. What the hell? It's totally fine."
Where do you come off lying like that? I'm burying my dog. You think a lie like that's never gonna catch up to you?
What? That's a pupper. She's not gonna notice the glowing red eyes.
Wow. What? Are you?
You say your goodbyes, mister. Zowie's going outside, and you are grounded. That's the new law, buddy.
What the fuck? I.
Drew?
I can't believe that you lied to us and didn't bury your dog. Now you go and kill that dog and rebury it. Kind of thing. Like, it's this whole thing. It's so weird that they can't see that this dog is obviously a zombie. Like, it's like dripping tar out of its mouth.
It's so
and they're like,
silly.
yeah, I don't know. All right, maybe guess we gotta take it to the vet. This doesn't seem totally right. So they take it to the vet, and the vet looks at it and goes, seems fine. I don't know. I guess
Looks
we'll just
like a dog
pack
to
that
me.
bullet. We'll just pack that bullet wound. He doesn't like dig the bullet out. There's none of that. It just like shows this open, festering wound that's like oozing black pus, and he just goes like, "Yeah, slap a bandit on that. I think, and then you just take the dog home. I'll send its blood off. I don't know. It seems kind of weird. Whatever. See you later. Bye."
Looks like a dog to me.
And every adult is
Yeah.
absolutely blind. It is the dumbest
They're
shit.
so dumb.
It works
They're
so well.
dumb. And
I
that
was
night,
fucking blown away by this. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, but that night, so Drew goes to sleep, and has a dream, but we don't know it's a dream yet. He's just sitting in his bed sleeping, and then he wakes up and he sees. Wait, is it him or is it Jeff? It might be Jeff, actually,
Jeff.
that has the
Jeff.
dream, because Jeff sees his mom in a rocking chair at his bed, and then as it like pans up to the top where the head is, it turns into a dog head that looks like Zowie, and it's just dog-headed mom in this rocking chair, and then he, oh god, and then there's Zowie in the rocking chair in front of him in full dog form. Like, what? What?
The reason why it's Jeff is because since Clancy shot the dog, the kid, oh god, is it Dave? I can't remember his name now.
Drew's the
Drew,
kid,
Drew,
yeah.
right. Yeah, so Drew says, "Hey, can you keep my dog for observation?
Oh,
for
that's
a few
why.
days
Yeah.
To make sure that he's safe?" Because he's like obviously worried about what this abusive asshole's going to do to the dog, and he wants the dog to be safe. It sucks. The reason sucks.
Oh yeah.
And then Zowie is just, "Hey, you sleeping there?" Sitting in the rocking chair when he wakes up.
Hey, you dreaming about your mom with my
At the same time, is this somewhere around here too? The dad has a weird dream about having sex with his newly resurrected wife, who's not been resurrected yet, and then she gets a dog head.
I remember that, but that's later, quite a bit later. But it's fine. His dad also has a dream where he's you know
Getting
with the
down.
business on in the Blue Man Group's fucking dressing room.
Everything's so blue in that scene
because the whole
Holy
scene
shit.
is blue. And then as he looks up at Zowie's face on his dead wife's body, and it's just like, but he's like, oh, that's weird. Anyway,
and then it turns full dog. Yeah,
keeps going.
Yeah, it
What
does.
the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck?
This movie has some visuals, man.
Yeah, but
anyway,
so they do check out Zowie the next day, though, right? And because that's when they before they took the blood sample, they checked out Zowie again, and they noticed that Zowie didn't have a heartbeat. And the
Yes.
dad's just like, "Oh, it must just not be registering on my stethoscope, which is not digital in any way."
He's like, it's just too faint to be registering. That's the problem. I just can't hear it. That's all. I don't know. I'm just a moron.
What a dumbass. What? So that's when he takes the blood sample and sends it off to be like, "Hey, what the
Yes.
hell?"
Yep.
Right. And now it's Halloween.
Mm-hmm. But Drew is grounded because he didn't bury his dog the way that he said he did when his abusive dad shot it, which the mom knows. The mom sucks here too because it's like, Jesus. Anyways, but the kid ends up going, like, he texts the mom like, "Oh, like, I really want to go," and she's like, "Okay, like, I'll cover for you," and she tries to let him sneak out to go and have Halloween anyway because weird, he shouldn't be punished for having his dog shot. And she hides the fact that the kid's gone from Gus when Gus comes home, but Gus finds out immediately because he's like, "This doesn't seem right. You're nice to me, and I'm a giant pile of shit. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and see where the kid is." And he looks in the kid's room, and the kid's not there. So he's like, "If you're gonna undermine my authority at every stage," and yells at her, and then he runs out the door to go and find the kids. And the kids are out with the bullies in the pet cemetery, drinking and telling ghost stories.
That scene's really weird because, like, they show up at the pet cemetery. The bullies drop a mannequin on him
They
that's
drop a
dressed up
fake
like his
mom.
mom. Yeah, they drop a fake mom, and to scare him. And then they're like, "Hey, what are you doing here, you piece of shit?" And then the next scene is them all being friends and sitting around a campfire telling stories, drinking. Like, what?
Yes,
What?
all together.
They just let them. They just let them hang out. What?
What are you doing here, you piece of shit? Anyway, we got beer and weed. You want to join us?
Yeah, you want to join us? Now that we did the prank, it's kind of,
I don't know.
nothing
The
else to
fun's
do,
kind of
so.
sucked out of it. Yeah, we're just
Yeah.
gonna sit here and get high.
What the hell? What?
So they tell
like,
spooky stories.
They tell spooky stories about, like, people coming back to life because of the cemetery. Basically, the story of the first movie is what they're telling. And then Gus just shows up like he usually does in this film, out of the middle of nowhere from the woods at a random angle.
Because he just knows where they are. The bully does this a lot too. The bully will just be exactly in a spot. Like, for example, here, like, they set up this mannequin and stuff, and it's like, wait, did they invite him to the cemetery? And then did he, knowing that they invited him, go? Because, like, he knows these are his bullies. It's just weird convenience.
Set up that they were just going to the
things.
cemetery, not that there was a party. So it's like, I don't.
It's why it doesn't make any sense.
Knows?
So Gus just shows up with his telepathy powers, knowing exactly where all the kids are, and he starts abusing his son again, and, like, hits the kid, and he's yelling at him and all this stuff. So Zowie, at being the good dog that Zowie is, runs in out of the woods and fucking rips his goddamn cop throat out.
Correct. Yep. Love to see it.
It was fantastic.
Yeah. And then Drew, for some reason, has the terrible idea to also bury Gus
in the same spot that he wants Gus to come back to life.
What? There's no reason why he would want this at all.
The only thing that I can think of is that it's like, oh man, I'm gonna be in so much trouble. I better bring him back to life.
I'll be like, grounded if Gus is dead. Yeah,
if Gus is dead, I'm gonna be in so much trouble, man. So that's the only thing that makes sense. But it's really weird. So they bury him in the same spot.
Yeah,
and then of course he's stunned when Gus shows up the next day, even though they just had that happen with Zowie, and he's been talking about, like, wow, it's a miracle. It does resurrect people from the dead. Anyway, I can't believe it resurrected him from the dead. Wow.
Wow. Anyways.
Who could have foreseen this weird circumstance?
When Gus gets back, though, he's outside of the house, and he's like, Drew, I can't find my keys.
Lost my keys.
And then Drew looks out the door. He's like, is that Gus? Oh, No one's here. Anyway, close the door. And then Gus is inside. He's like, jingle, 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 jingle. Found my keys.
It's just
Found him. Need a shower.
Clancy Brown is having a blast with this at this point too. He is chewing the
Yeah.
scene so hard.
It's so funny.
And so you're like, oh, okay, so creepy, horrible Gus is back, and now he's extra bad because of all this stuff. And it shows him there's a horrible scene where he like does some bad stuff with the family and everything, and he's being abusive again, etc., etc. Then the next day, Drew is talking to Jeff, and he's like, whoa, Gus came back from the dead too, man. Whoa, I can't believe it. You know, the thing that we already had happen once happened again. Who'd have known? Oh, God. And while he's doing that, he's like, but, you know, he was way better now. I think that I've got a dad. It feels like a family. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, do you want to come over for dinner tonight? It'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, yeah, sure, man. That sounds great. And then it cuts to the dinner, and Clancy Brown is dressed in his clothes that he was like buried in the desert in, so that they're all muddy and covered in blood. He's still wearing them with like this bandage that's half falling off of this oozing pus wound out of his neck. And he's all pallid and with like hanging eyes,
so
like,
funny.
you know, like, and he's sitting there eating food. He's got like the rabbits that he cooked, and he's eating it by hand, like just shoving it in his mouth, and like he's got like grease coming down his chin and all this, and like he's like some weird animal. And they're all staring at each other, and then he's like, he grabs some potatoes with the serving spoon and like jams it down his mouth, and he's got like this mouthful of rabbit and potatoes, and he's just dripping gore out of his mouth. And he looks over at the kid, and he opens his mouth and starts spitting all the food out at Edward Furlong.
Yeah.
And he's like, and they all just burst into the weirdest laughing fit for like a minute and a half, where they all are finding it funny, like it's a joke. And it's like, I don't think, what is that?
It's funny.
What the fuck?
This is real fucking weird.
What the fuck is going on? We're laughing.
We're laughing.
Like we do. What is going on? Explain
so
this scene to
funny.
me, boy.
It's so funny.
What was the decision? Why this?
Because it's art. It's art. And you need to put this on film.
Yeah, this was the part where this movie ascended for me, honestly. Because once it got to here, I was like, all right, I'm not 100% certain whether this is intentionally good or if it's just that they lucked into it. But this movie is fantastic now. Like, because it goes on for way too long and in the weirdest way. And the kids act like, oh man, he's such a better person now. I love this. And it's like, he's this weird zombie man chewing food, like spitting it out at them. And they all think that it made him hilarious and cool now.
It rules. It honestly rules.
He's so obviously a zombie sitting at this table. It's so bad. It fucking slaps.
Yeah, even like Drew's mom is like, hey, come on, stop being a jerk. Throwing food on the floor.
So weird.
Everybody's just treating him normal. And it's like, what the fuck?
They're treating him like he's had like a weird change of heart, but not like he's a fucking undead monster, which is very obviously what his makeup is. Even while he's in the middle of the laughing fit, he turns in a weird way, and the bandage half falls off of his neck, and it like starts oozing pus again. And so like Drew's like, let me help you with that, Dad, and like slides it back up over the wound, and you're like, that's a weird thing to do, but okay.
So yeah, it's goofy as hell. That scene, hard cuts to Jeff and Drew at day for night on the middle of a road, just chatting on their
Yes.
bikes, and then they separate, going different ways down the road, and then at the same time, the bully drives by with his cape flowing in the wind on his
Yeah, he's got a
motorcycle.
duster. He's got a fucking duster because he's this badass. He's got one earring. Like, this is what I mean. I don't know if this movie is doing it as a joke or if it just thinks that
So
this is
good.
cool stuff because he's got like a one earring and a little goatee.
Yeah, the
like,
90s thing was all about the one earring. It really
one
was. Like
earring
early
and a
90s.
goatee.
Yeah,
Like, holy shit, like frosted tips, goatee, one earring, this kid, this duster going down on his motorcycle. Because that's what bullies are like.
He knocks Jeff off of his bike, basically.
Yes.
And then, gets down into the ditch that he knocked him into and is like bullying him and threatening to push his face into the tire as it's rotating.
Yeah.
And out of nowhere, Gus's telepathy goes off. And he
teleports over behind the kid.
Into the woods and bumbles his way in through the fucking forest out of nowhere and grabs the kid, the bully, and is like, "Hey, Jeff, get the fuck out of here. I'm gonna bully this kid.
I'm about to bully this bully." And by bully, I mean turn on his motorcycle back tire, wrap his scarf into the tire, and shred his face with it. Which
it's fucked up. Yeah.
There's some real gore in this movie. It's fucked bad, up. But it's a lot of gore.
But the whole time he's doing that, he's saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm just fucking with you." Whoops. Haha. It's like the whole thing is like, it's like The Mask.
Yes, yeah. Like he's getting splattered with blood and he's like laughing with his face maniacally and he's like, "Whoopsie doodle, didn't mean to do that." And starts like revving the engine again. Yeah, and it's Clancy Brown. Like, okay, my theory of that it might be incompetence all the way through does not include Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown knew what he was in because Clancy Brown nails this.
So, but Drew turned around when he saw the bully going after Jeff. So he sees Gus kill the bully. And Gus knows
Jeff
that he saw him do it.
And he's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So he runs after Drew back to the house to take him out.
Got no witnesses.
So Drew grabs his shotgun from the wall, cocks it, and then as Gus walks in, uh-oh. Click, click, click,
yeah,
click, 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 click. Yeah, and Gus is like, "Oh, forgetting something? I got the bullets right here."
Yeah, he shows up the shotgun shells. It's like,
how did he get those?
Kid didn't load the shotgun. Wow.
I got something, Drew, buddy.
How'd he get those? Then Drew's like, "Oh, I'll just take the keys and leave and lock the house." So he goes to the keys on the wall and they're gone. And then Gus is like, "Looking for some keys? Jingle, 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 jingle." Got the keys!
Oh my god. They really liked the key thing with him.
I don't know what it was
and
so
this
funny.
Is where it really felt like Drew was the protagonist firmly now, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's this long scene, this big chase scene all over the place between him and Gus, and like he's fighting him off, and they have all these attacks and different things like that. Like there's this massive chase and all this stuff. Finally, he runs and finds his mom, and he's like, "Oh my god, like Dad's trying to kill me." She's like, "What?" And then Clancy, like when she pulls up in her car, he jumps into the car and he's like, "You gotta go, like Dad's trying to kill me." And as she's going like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Clancy Brown like jumps off the second floor onto the hood of the car. And he's like, so she's like, spooky. "Oh my god, whoa, I'm spooky."
Daddy's not done.
She floors it out of there with Clancy Brown on the hood.
Because
he
starts running after her on foot, right? But then he's like, "No, this is stupid." And Gus turns around and gets his sheriff vehicle instead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then he chases them down, and like I thought for sure that at this point, like I said, that Drew was going to be more of the hero, or at least one of
Mhm.
them, and then Clancy Brown shoves them into an oncoming logging truck, or no,
Oh,
potato.
it's a potato
Sorry.
truck.
Yes, no, it was definitely a potato
Death
truck.
by
Sorry.
potato.
Yes, they get smashed head on in this potato truck. I thought for sure they would live, and then
Yeah, I thought
nope.
so too, but
They hit this potato truck, and then the whole car gets buried in potatoes, and it shows a leg sticking out from the mom with a little
yeah.
bit of blood going down through it, through all this mound of potatoes, which is the
Uh,
weirdest death. And they even like zoom in on the back tire as he like because he's like
I'm
like
so
having this
evil. Ha ha ha.
glorious laugh time as he peels out away from the head-on collision, and they zoom in on the back tire as it rolls over a potato and squishes it. Like
It's
it's
so good. Yeah,
fucking
like he was
cheesy as
man,
hell.
it's good. It's good. And then literally, not even one fucking second later.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did you see Gus at the funeral? He seemed really weird. Anyway, it's a different day now. How's it going, everyone?
Yeah, it's the burial of the
What?
family immediately.
It's been like at least a week. Like time has passed.
Yeah, they really they just accelerate things out of nowhere a couple times like that. Also, Dad got attacked by Zowie and now carries a gun because he
Yeah,
shot the
I
dog.
guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the vet dad got attacked by the weird dog and it
That's when he was
escaped.
having the weird sex dream. Yeah.
Yes. So that kind of thing happens somewhere around here. And also, even though Zowie escapes and attacks him, he then goes down to the office like normal the next day, and this family
Hmm.
comes in and goes like, "Hey, I heard you have some free kittens," because there's still kittens left. And he's like, "Yeah, they're just in the back, with the dog that was obviously undead that escaped."
Yeah.
Well, he's on the call also with a lab that's like, "Hey, man, stop giving us tests of dead animal tissue because it's obviously a
Yeah,
dead
yeah.
animal." And he's like, "No, man, that zombie was perfectly alive when I examined it." Wait, sorry, I didn't mean zombie. I meant dog.
That zombie
Dog,
was
definitely.
perfectly alive. Gash that was never healing, pus, no heartbeat, red eyes.
All the
Fucking
the dog. That's a dog. I know dogs. I'm a
oh my
vet.
god.
And the family in the back sees like this big hole in the cage where Zowie was, and all of the kittens are a
The
pile of
gourd
gore.
kittens, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And they scream, and
so
he's like, "Oh no!"
but yeah, Jeff. They find out that Jeff has a shrine to his mother that he's been building in their attic, which is all just to set up a final act. That's the whole point.
Yes,
And then we also find out uh the is it the gravedigger, the caretaker of the
it
cemetery,
was no,
somebody,
it was the old the
the old
taxidermist, right?
vet.
That was
The-
the old vet. That was the
yeah,
vet from the previous
okay.
movie.
Why is the old vet running the cemetery? What is happening?
I no, he's just in a creepy taxidermy office now, and he tell
Okay.
the dad goes to him and goes like, "I heard that you had a similar problem," and he goes, "Ah, you better leave the town. Rah, heed my
Yeah.
warning. I'm a weird old guy because this is a
Is he
horror
also the
movie."
one that calls him and shows him that his wife got removed from the coffin at the cemetery?
No, sorry, there's the
That's who I'm talking
caretaker
about.
also. Oh, okay, yeah. There's a
Yeah,
couple of creepy old guys that are like, "Oh, you better leave town, son."
right. But apparently Gus dug up his wife's grave.
Yes,
Not
in an
Gus's wife,
exhumation
but
order.
yeah, the actress who died at the
Yes, he
beginning of
dug
the
up the
film.
actress.
And
Yeah.
and this whole time Jeff apparently knows this because he's like, "Oh, I'm just getting ready for mom to come back. I'm creepy now. How's it going, Dad? I'm going through a creepy phase."
Jeff does this
What?
weird 180 character turn where, I mean, the last scene that we saw him in was getting bullied by the kid,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like
And then running
also
away.
and being afraid of Zowie, who returned from the grave, and like spending a night laughing with Gus while Gus
Mm-hmm.
was bleeding pus. And then we see him, and suddenly he's like pale and has like the Spider-Man 3 Tobey
Yeah,
Maguire black
yeah,
haircut, like with it
it's
like
that.
half going across his eyes. Like I'm not even, it absolutely is 100% he has a different haircut and he looks all goth and he's like got like black nail polish and eyeshadow and he's like, "Mom's coming home tonight, Dad." And Clancy Brown, when he goes and sees Clancy Brown in the cemetery because he just knows where he is and like you
Mm-hmm.
said, knows automatically that Clancy Brown is resurrecting his mom, and we don't know why. And Clancy Brown like bows to him and like
He's like,
waves his arm, and he's like,
you're the leader now. You're
"Here you are,
king
Dark
of
Lord
zombies." Yeah,
Jeff." And it's like, wait, what? Does Jeff know about this? Is Jeff friends with weird cop guy now? And just fucking out of nowhere with no explanation. And
yeah.
then the mom comes back, and obviously the housekeeper's at home. So we kind of have that. Like, she's just like sleeping on the couch like she always does, her only job.
It's her
And
job. Yeah.
there's a knock on the door and it's, "Oh no, mom's back." So mom kills the housekeeper and
Mm-hmm.
sets the house on fire.
Not yet, but eventually.
Sure.
Eventually.
Oh, I guess, yeah, no,
Because
there's a
because
lot more. Yeah,
there's a
also the
lot that
Clancy
happens in
thing.
between
Yeah,
that.
no, you're right. You're right.
Because so Jeff buries his mom, which does come back, but the vet dad is watching movies about his dead wife being shot.
Yeah,
For
it took me a
some
while to
reason,
realize that. It
for
took me a while to
some
realize what he was
reason.
doing, that it was like, "Oh wait, these are her movies and it's her
Yeah,
being murdered over and over." And he's just like
it's super
replaying
weird.
that.
And then he
Yeah.
grabs his gun and goes to Gus's house. At Gus's
Yes.
murder house, Gore House of Blood, Gus's House of Haunted Hill. I don't. What is this house? And
Gus's dark ride
and
is
the
what this
only
is.
car that he has is the vet van. By the
And
way,
Gus has like all of like the rabbits strung up because he wants
yeah,
to make it a horror house. And,
yeah, he made
like,
it a horror house. So as he gets out of, like, he opens the door to get out of his vet van.
mhm.
Then Zowie immediately, like, Cujo jumps on him and
Yes.
starts biting him, and he shoots Zowie and takes her out. And at the same time, he's like, "I hate that dog."
I hate that dog.
Yeah, when he's done
With that line
getting
delivery.
mauled and they have like this huge
Yeah.
fight and then he
It's-
shoots
it's-
this undead dog, he's like,
Yeah.
"Man, I hate that dog." And you can almost like, ha 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 ha, like laugh
Like,
track over it. Like,
Yeah,
it's got that energy.
super, like, wink at the camera. Again, I don't. It has to be. It has to be intentional because it's
Doesn't
so
have
bad.
It doesn't have to be.
But so he goes into Gus's murder house, and Gus is like, "Oh, you killed Zowie? Oh, anyways, welcome to my murder abode. How's it going, bud?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
you
now
have a
there's like
gun, oh."
this talk too about like, "Hey, I fucked your wife." Like, there's this thing about
Because
he has some kind of weird
he had the hots for
conversation
her
at some
or
point where he was
something.
like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, she was my sweetheart back in high school," and you're like, "Wait, these people know each other?"
Yeah.
Okay,
I didn't even know
like, it's
that
not
they
really set up.
the Jeff's dad and actress mom were apparently split up. I didn't even know that.
Yes, there's a point like 20 minutes into the movie where he's the kid, or like 40 minutes in, where
It's pretty
Edward
long
Furlong
in,
looks
yeah.
at dad and he goes, "Do you think if mom had lived that you'd have gotten back together?" And both of us went, "Wait, were they weren't together?" Like,
It's when?
it's super not set up. It's not mentioned at all.
Yeah.
Oh
But
god,
so
yeah.
Gus and Vet Dad duke it out. Gus, like, grabs his gun and empties all of his bullets, and then, like, tries to hit him with a drill, saying one-liners all the time, like, "No brain, no pain, am I right?"
Nah!
Do you have a permit for that gun?
Thought not.
Got a permit for this? Let me know if this hurts.
So who's the main character?
No brain, no pain. Think about it.
It's the best shit. And then he somehow, like, the vet somehow gets one bullet back in the gun,
Yeah, he struggles
And-
on the floor, gets one
puts
in.
it up
and-
against his chin, and goes blam, miss, blam, miss, blam, miss. Fourth tries the charm.
Yeah, he plays Russian roulette with it basically
Yeah.
because he almost spins the barrel when he puts the one bullet in, like just for funsies.
Just for fun. And then after he
Oh
takes out
no,
Gus,
maybe this will kill him, maybe this won't. We'll find out in a moment.
again, I assume this is intentional joke because as he leaves, he starts putting bullets back in the gun,
This
looks
was
up
fucking
and thinks,
hilarious.
he's like, "No, I'm not done."
Yeah,
Walks back
dude, Jeff
in
walks in.
and just like triple taps him.
Yep, you hear another blam, blam, blam from in the house, and then he comes walking back out, and he's like, "There we go." Nods his head and gets in the car. Yeah, that was
It's so
okay. You
good.
might be right. Maybe
It's
it
so
knows.
good. It's so funny. Oh man.
That was a hell of a moment.
But then we go back to the house. The
Yes.
housekeeper has been killed by the mom, and the mom is confronted by vet dad as
Yep.
Jeff is in there cuddling up to her, being like, "Look, it's my real mom. She's alive now, not dead at all. I told you, she's not dead."
He's also wearing like am I wrong? Was he wearing a black, like, kind of kid tuxedo suit
Yes,
thing?
he like reverted back to the funeral. I think it was the same thing he was wearing in the funeral.
Okay.
It's weird. Like
It's
they're
just
trying to do something with like, oh my god, he can't get over the fact that his mom died, and
he looks so Adam's fucking family out of nowhere.
yeah.
He's just Dark Lord Edward Furlong for no reason.
Oh,
2/3 of the way through this movie.
oh, right. One thing we forgot to point out: Gus also buried the bully, which is important because
Yes.
the bully just shows up for no fucking reason.
Yeah, the bully comes back with his face all chewed off, and they have now final boss fight with the
Yeah,
bully.
it's
The
a
dad had
boss
his final
fight.
boss fight. So like
Yeah.
we had and it shifts protagonist because it felt like it was going to be Drew as the protagonist, and then he fucking dies. So then the dad is set up for the long time because like the dad's been doing all this stuff, and Edward's now like Edward Furlong turns into the Dark Lord. So you're like, okay, I guess that he's the villain now. And like it really seems like he's going to be a
Yeah.
villain, like that he's going to be one of the final villains, and the dad's going to be the only one that lives. And then the dad shows up and the kid's like cuddling mom. And then he's like, "Get away from her. That's not your mom." And Edward goes, "Wait, that's not my mom? Oh my God." And he like reverts back to regular Edward Furlong instantly. Like it's like the spell's broken. And he's like, "Wait, you're right. She is kind of creepy and weird."
Oh,
And it's
you
like,
know what? Yeah,
no
that's my
fucking
B.
shit.
I effed up. My B.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have raised mom from the dead. Damn, fuck, I can't believe we did that.
Yeah.
And so then he suddenly has a change of heart, and they have like the big final battle where Bully and Edward Furlong are fighting, and Dad's kind of fighting him and Mom. Mom starts burning the house down, and there's like an axe involved in it. There's like this whole
Yeah, classic.
thing.
It's because the bully brought the axe with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Jeff grabs a live wire from the wall that was
Yes.
cut by the axe with his bare hands
Mm-hmm.
and electrocutes
As
the
you
bully
do.
to death with no repercussions for holding it with his bare hands.
Well, and also while the bully is on top of him, he shoves
Correct.
it in the bully's mouth, and he's like, "Take this," kind of. He's like, "Eat
Look,
this" or
I'm not
something like that. He has
I'm not
some
an
kind of.
electrician or anything, but
I
I know
feel like
I know
electricity
physics.
grounds, which
Yeah,
means that it goes
yeah.
through Edward Furlong there too. Like,
Oh man, and at the
yeah,
same time as the house is burning down, Jeff's like, you know what? I think I will leave. I have an axe, and he axes his way out of the locked door. He solved the puzzle of the final boss fight, which is not kill your mom. It's break the door open and leave.
yeah. Well, the mom
Well,
screams at
she's
them because, and he
yeah,
carries like the dad out. And the mom's screaming at them the whole time as she's melting in the fire. She even yells out one time, "I'm melting! Ha ha ha!
I'm
Ha, I'm
melting.
melting!" Like
Hee
she
hee
giggles
hee.
while she's doing it.
Yep.
And she's like, "Oh, come on, it's better if you're dead." And it's like, wait, was
And
this set?
man, and
What's the setup
there's
for this? Why does she want them dead? Why wouldn't she just try and kill them then? She doesn't try and kill them. She doesn't try and stop them.
no, she
She
doesn't do
just stands
anything.
on the bed in the middle of the flames and T-poses while she giggles at them and screams about how she's melting. The
It's like they
weirdest
forgot
shit.
to animate the scene or something. But it's funny because uh there's another like sarcastic thing they're doing with the camera during this because it's like zooming in on her face really close. She's like,
It
"Hey,
does the
come
Sam
here,
Raimi
Jeff.
thing.
come here, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's super Evil Dead jokey. Like, oh my god, I love it.
There's a
It's so
couple
good.
times where it does like a very fast, quick zoom in on her face that feels extremely Sam Raimi. Like it really
Yeah.
screams like that Evil Dead where they would like cut and then like show somebody's face and just like zoom really quick in on it to do it like as a
Mhm.
spooky face. Like that's like a Sam Raimi
It's
101. It's
great.
yeah.
After the house burns down, because Jeff dragged his vet dad out,
Mhm.
they leave the town, they drive off into the sunset, and as the Ramones are playing, we get a montage of everybody that died in the film. Remember this person? They're dead now. And this one? They're also dead. And this person? Dead.
Yeah,
Oh,
this is
but what
like
about
in
that one?
memoriam.
In memoriam of
Like
these characters that died in this film. It's like,
it
oh
has them
man.
like in hazy like
Yeah,
vignette half focus
to
things.
the
Like it's like
Ramones.
what?
To the
Yes.
Ramones. It's like so sarcastic. It has to be.
I
There's all the people that
just
died.
showing the kill count.
They all
Yeah.
died. That person died too. And I guess she's dead or something. Yeah, they're dead too.
Yep, these are all the dead friends.
There's
I don't
no reason
know.
why
I
you would
don't
put that
know.
there.
I don't know. What is the reason for having like a tiny elf lady that eats candy cane pizzas as she
I
squeaks
don't
out
know. I
lines?
don't
Like
know.
we see a lot of weird shit in these movies, man. I don't know that this wasn't intentional. It's a beautiful work of art no matter what, though. Like the one thing that we can
Yeah,
both agree on, this movie is a work of art.
I
It
I feel
deserves
like
more
yeah.
following.
I feel like this film is underappreciated. I do.
Yes.
Because this is a
Yeah.
very fun movie. It's not good,
I no, it's terrible.
but it's very fun.
It's it's one of those movies where it doesn't do the cardinal sin of making you bored. There was
Yeah.
never a moment in this movie where I was bored in the slightest. Even when I was sitting there going like, this is dumb, it was the kind of dumb that was fun as hell. Like every single scene had something going on in it that you could watch and just be like, okay, like it was always something to see. It was a spectacle of a movie.
Mhm.
Sometimes it was really funny and good, and sometimes it was really funny and bad, but it was always something new around every corner of this film.
What a movie.
So let's rate the dogs. Or
Yeah,
dog.
dog. There's Zowie. That's the
There's
dog.
just Zowie, yeah.
Zowie's a pure white husky, I believe.
Yeah.
It,
Or like
it looks like a
Shibu.
husky or
Yeah,
something
like
like that
Shibu
anyway.
Cross or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Cute dog, likes pets, is very protective of their boy.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Loves murder
killed
and cops.
killed a cop. I would say at least a 13 out of 10, which is an unlucky number. So,
Yeah, I would probably say 13 out of 12, honestly.
no, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
so like a
Yeah,
13-12 there for me.
yeah, sure. Yeah, that's Pet Cemetery 2. What a film! I
I went into this thinking that it was going to be terrible, and it was, but in ways that I could have never imagined. I loved this film. I didn't look that Clancy Brown was in it. I might have had higher expectations if I'd known,
mhm.
but man, Clancy Brown really carries this film. Like this is a visual movie that we're trying to describe because you really do need to see Clancy Brown's delivery of all the one-liners with like him trying to drill into the vet's skull and like the no brain, no pain, baby, like flicking his tongue out while he's doing it. Like he is just having a fucking Clancy Brown time, and I am so there for it. It's a
Mhm.
treat to watch this movie. Like, even though we've described the plot of it, you still should just watch it for yourself because it's such a spectacle. It's a thing to watch.
As a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter at roughcutscast. Also, if you have any fan art, suggestions, etc., you can email us at roughcutscast@gmail.com. We also have a Patreon. Please subscribe to our Patreon. It helps us rent these movies, buy hardware, a ton of stuff to help produce
all
the
of your
show.
VHS stuff that you've set up. We actually have some of that there and ready, and it'll let you get the episodes a little bit earlier. So
it's true. But yeah, that's it for
exclusive stuff there
for this week. Thanks again for listening, and yeah, we'll catch you next time.
Don't bury your mom on a weird altar in the woods.
Look, there's one place I draw the line, and it's burying Buddy's son. Now you go to bed.
How dare you lie about not burying your dead dog? God damn it.
God.
You go back out in the woods and you bury this dead dog properly. You hear me, boy?
God damn it. All right.
See you later.
I hate that dog.
My whole life ruined by dogs.